Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. If you feel any pain or discomfort at any area of your body, bring your awareness to that area and mentally say, I let go. I am not the body. The body is just a vehicle of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize your whole body disintegrate and disappear. All the pain and discomfort disintegrate and disappear. All the cells and organs in your body disintegrate and disappear. And what remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Now bring your awareness higher to your thoughts and your emotions. Just observe each and every thought that comes to your mind and fades away. Mentally say, I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. Thoughts and emotions are just products of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize all your thoughts and emotions disintegrate and disappear. And what remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Now please bring your awareness higher to your crown chakra and mentally say, to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to Grandmaster Chuakok Sui, Lord Mahaguruji Mailing, all the great ones, all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers, to all the masters of the Theosophical Society. Thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection, inner healing and physical healing, good health and happiness, prosperity and abundance, spirituality and illumination. Thank you in full faith. Now please put your two hands in a namaste position in front of your heart. Be aware of the presence of each and every person in this session and mentally say, Namaste, thank you for being here. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big smile. Atma Namaste, and thank you everyone for joining this esoteric study session. So let's begin. So as we just discussed, the earlier part of this book is more of introduction about esoteric astrology, because there are so many differences between this way of looking at astrology and the exoteric one or the orthodox one. So there will be some explanation, and this book is by Alice Bailey and Master DK. So when it says I, it's not me, it's just taken from the book. Okay, so we try to read and understand this. And there are some extra images and tables and so on, which we try to put there so that it's easier for everybody here to understand. Okay, and as usual, if you have questions, please put in the chat and we will try to discuss and explain and understand it together. Okay, so let's begin with chapter 1 of this book. So it says, I seek to lay the ground for a somewhat new approach, a far more esoteric approach to the science of astrology. I would ask all of you, therefore, who read and study this section of a treatise on the seven rays, to bear in mind these comments and to preserve a willingness to consider hypotheses and to make an effort to weigh a theory or suggestion and to test out conclusions over the course of a few years. If you can do this, there may come to you an awakening of the intuition, which will translate modern astrology into something of real moment and significance to the world. It is intuitional astrology which must eventually supersede what is today called astrology. Okay, so later we will discuss reading a chart for a person. It's different if a person is not yet in the spiritual path, if the person is in probationary path, if the person is a disciple, or if the person is a master. So knowing this or intuitively guessing this will help us to study the chart in a far more deeper sense. And there will be more things that we will discuss together during the book. Okay, so the statement is frequently made that astrology is an exact science, but that is far from correct in spite of the many mathematical computations. Astrology is based, curiously enough, upon illusion. For as well you know, the zodiac is not but the imaginary path of the sun through the heavens, and this as it appears from the standpoint of our totally insignificant planet. The sun is not as stated in any sign of the zodiac. It simply appears to be so as it passes between our little sphere, the earth, and the constellations at any particular time or season. Okay, so basically, when we study astrology, we put the earth as the center of the solar system and everything else is revolving around it, which is based on illusion. As we know, all the planets are revolving around the sun, and earth is basically an insignificant planet. So that's why the book says, um, although there are so many mathematical computations and everything, but the whole thing is based on an illusion. Okay. So in ancient days, it was believed that the earth was the center of the solar system and that around it revolved the sun and all the other planets. This was the exoteric knowledge and position, though not the esoteric understanding. Later, when further discoveries brought more light to the human mind, our planet was decentralized and the truth was more clearly seen, though much remains as yet to be discovered and may even be of as revolutionary a nature. So from certain astrological angles, a similar process of decentralization must take place, and the solar system must no longer be regarded as a point around which the zodiac revolves, or through which the sun passes in its great cycle of approximately 25,000 years. Okay, so you see everything needs a new way of looking at it, which will be the discussion in the book as well. So astrology is a science which must be restored to its original beauty and truth before the world can gain a truer perspective and a more just and accurate appreciation of the divine plan as it is expressed at this time through the wisdom of the ages. So that was the first statement. Second statement which I would make is that astrology is essentially the purest presentation of occult truth in the world at this time. It is the science which deals with those conditioning and governing energies and forces which play through and upon the whole field of space and all that is found within that field. It is this scientific living which it is the immediate purpose of astrology to bring about. At present, the position of the average believer in astrology is that he is an individual of importance, at least to himself, that he is willing on that important planet, the Earth, important to humanity, of course, and that through astrology he can discover his destiny and know what he ought to do. In making this comment, I do not refer to those few astrologers who possess real esoteric knowledge. So this second statement means that yes, astrology is actually the purest presentation of occult truth, but the problem is most of the astrologers look at the individual chart or the birth chart of an individual person. And that is the importance of the astrology, to understand what is going to happen for this individual person in this planet Earth. But the whole purpose of astrology goes far beyond that, and we can study the whole humanity, the whole solar system, and so on, not just one individual in the whole scheme of evolution. Okay, so this can reveal deeper understanding about the divine plan. Okay, so it says, I desire to give you a truer and more accurate picture. This has now become possible because group awareness, group relations, and group integrity are coming to the fore in the human consciousness. As this takes place, the personality, which is individual, separative, and self-centered, will recede increasingly into the background, and the soul, non-separative, group conscious, and inclusive, will come more and more to the fore. Interest, therefore, in the individual horoscope will gradually die out, and increasingly the planetary, the systemic, and the universal picture will stand out in the awareness of the individual. He will then regard himself only as an integral part of a far more important whole, and his world group will interest him far more than himself as an individual. So it means as we go deeper into astrology, we don't only look at our own individual chart, but we try to understand the group consciousness, and we understand that we are part of this whole group. We are part of the whole planet, the whole humanity, and then we are also a part of the whole solar system. And therefore, it gives a new understanding and a deeper understanding towards the whole astrology. So universal relationships, the interplay of energies, the nature of what lies beyond the great illusion, the deluding appearances of things as they are, and the destiny of our planet, of the kingdoms in nature, and of humanity as a whole, these will constitute the major part of our theme. I will seek to remove you as individuals from out of the center of your own stage and consciousness, and without depriving you of individuality and of self-identity, yet show you how you are part of a greater whole, of which you can become consciously aware, when you can function as souls, but of which you are today unconscious, or at least only registering and sensing the inner reality in which you live and move and have your being. Okay, so the book is trying to take us from thinking about only individual self and individual chart and look at the whole humanity. Of course, through the book, we will understand our own life, our purposes, and our destiny, our personality even more. But the book is also trying to lead us to understanding of a greater reality, which is the whole humanity, the kingdoms in nature, destiny of our planet. So, and the third statement, this brings me to the third statement, which is so basic and fundamental that the ancient wisdom teaches that space is an entity. Okay, so we will discuss about this more. And it is with the life of this entity and with the forces and energies, the impulses and the rhythms, the cycles and the times and seasons that esoteric astrology deals. Space is an entity, and the entire vault of heaven is the phenomenal appearance of that entity. Okay, let me read this through and then we will discuss about it more. Speculations about the nature, the history, and identity of that entity is useless and of no value. Some dim idea providing analogy even when eluding specifications might be gained if you will endeavor to think of the human family, the fourth kingdom in nature, as an entity, as constituting a single unit expressing itself through the many diversified forms of man. Okay, so as we look at the whole humanity as an entity, The space is also an entity. The whole solar system is an entity. So you as an individual are an integral part of humanity. Yet you lead your own life. You react to your own impressions. You respond to exterior influences and impacts. And in your turn, you emanate influences, send forth some form of character radiation, and express some quality or qualities. You thereby, in some measure, affect your environment and those whom you contact. Yet all the while you remain part of a phenomenal entity to which we give the name of humanity. Now extend this idea to a greater phenomenal entity, the solar system. This entity is itself an integral part of a still greater life, which is expressing itself through 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. Okay, so we go from individual to the whole. Imagine our own individual self. So we live our life and we affect our own environment. We have our own individual life, yet we are connected and part of a greater entity called the humanity. Okay, so we affect the humanity and the humanity affect us. So we are part of this whole entity. Now, extending that further, the whole solar system is also an entity. Okay, so our planet and the other planets affect the whole solar system, and the whole energy of the whole system also affect us. And this one system, solar system, is also part of a greater entity that is 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. So we will endeavor to work from the universal to the particular and from the general to the specific, but our emphasis will always be on the universal and the general and not upon the particular and specific. So you have heard this statement, as above, so below. So we will try to understand the particular, and then from that we go to the universal, and then from the universal or general we come back to the particular or specific. So means understanding the whole help us to understand our own lives, and understanding our own lives and the whole chart help us to understand the whole as well. It will rest with those of you who are students of astrology to make due application of the truth to the specific. So it means whatever we discuss about the whole general and the whole principles can be also applied to the specific, which is our own individual life. It is definitely in this connection that modern astrology has gone astray. It has reversed the true and right procedure and has laid the emphasis upon the specific and particular, upon the personal horoscope and the individual destiny, and has not laid the emphasis upon the great energies and their source. These sources are ultimately responsible for the manifestation of the specific. So in this book, we will discuss what are the energies and forces that basically affect the individual. The next point for each of you to grasp is the fact that the ether of space is the field in and through which the energies from the many originating sources play. Okay, so basically to summarize these 3 statements, statement 1, the whole astrology, the exoteric astrology is based on an illusion that the earth is the center of the universe and everything revolves around it. So we're going to go beyond that. Second statement, what was the second statement? I need to go back. The second statement is that the astrology is the purest presentation of occult truth, and we will look at the whole, not the individual. Okay, so the individual will not have that much of importance. We need to look at the whole humanity and the whole solar system as the main important aspect and the whole divine plan. And the third statement is that space is an entity and the whole humanity is an entity, the whole solar system is an entity, and therefore these energies also affect each one of us. So we are therefore concerned with the etheric body of the planets, of the solar system, and of the 7 solar systems, of which our system is one, as well as with the general and vaster etheric body of the universe in which we are located. So all of these are important in affecting our lives on Earth. These vaster fields, as well as the smaller and more localized fields, provide the medium of transmission for all the energies which play upon and through our solar system, our planetary spheres, and all forms of life upon those spheres. It forms one unbroken field of activity in constant, ceaseless motion, an eternal medium for the exchange and transmission of energies. So this ether of space provides the medium for all these energies to work through. Students should never forget the law of analogy as an interpretive agency. So esotericism teaches that underlying the physical body and its comprehensive and intricate system of nerves is a vital or etheric body, which is the counterpart and the true form of the outer and tangible phenomenal aspect. So this part is easy for all of us to understand because through pranic healing and through the work of Grandmaster Shuo Koksui, we are all familiar with this concept of energy, the energy body, the chakras, and how they are important in our lives and how the condition of the chakras and our energy affect one's on one's life, physiological, psychological. So here is the explaining about that. It is likewise the medium for the transmission of force to all parts of the human frame and the agent of the indwelling life and consciousness. It determines and conditions the physical body, for it is itself the repository and the transmitter of energy from the various subjective aspects of man, and also from the environment in which man, both inner and outer man, finds himself. Okay, so the same way we look at the space and the whole solar system. All of these planets have an etheric body. All of them have energy fields. Everything is energy. So just how we are this entity and we have these chakras and we have these auras, the whole solar system is an entity. And all these planets are like chakras of the solar system. And all of these have energy fields. And therefore all of these affect one another and affecting also our life on Earth. Okay, so I think up to here was understandable. So there are 2 other points that Alice Bailey is making here. 2 other points should here be added. First, the individual etheric body is not an isolated and separated human vehicle, but is, in a peculiar sense, an integral part of the etheric body of that entity which we have called the human family. This kingdom in nature, through its etheric body, is an integral part of the planetary etheric body. The planetary etheric body is not separated off from the etheric bodies of other planets, but all of them in their totality, along with the etheric body of the sun, constitute the etheric body of the solar system. Okay, so means we are all connected to one another. So what affects one affects the rest. This is related to the etheric bodies of the 6 solar systems, which, with ours, form a cosmic unity, and into these pour energies and forces from certain great constellations. The field of space is etheric in nature, and its vital body is composed of the totality of etheric bodies of all constellations, solar systems, and planets, which are found therein. Throughout this cosmic golden web, there is a constant circulation of energies and forces, and this constitutes the scientific basis of the astrological theories. Okay, so as we discussed, this whole solar system and this whole space is the etheric body, and our etheric body, the planet's etheric body, the Earth etheric body, all the planets' etheric body, the sun's etheric body, the solar system, and all the solar systems are part of this whole field of space. Now, this is from the existence of God is self-evident, because their Grandmaster gives certain points about the whole energy of space that we just discussed. So I thought it's nice to also remind ourselves. So this is taken from The Existence of God is Self-Evident by Master Shua Koksui. He says the world consists of a series of spiritual energy transformers. The planet Earth is an energy transformer. The sun is an energy transformer. The constellation and galaxy are energy transformers. Our universe is a spiritual energy transformer, and a maxi universe is an energy transformer. During meditation, when the consciousness of the meditator just expands slightly, when he sees the solar system, he does not see planets revolving around the sun. He sees luminous lotus flowers revolving around the sun. Interpenetrating the physical planet is an energy planet, which is alternately rotating clockwise and counterclockwise. The interaction of the subtle energy moving in clockwise and counterclockwise motion produces an optical image of a planetary luminous lotus flower rotating around the sun. The energy planets are celestial whirling energy centers. So exactly like chakras. Our chakras also look like lotus flowers. Like, for example, symbol or sometimes crown chakra in meditation looks like a golden lotus flower. So it's symbolized by a golden lotus flower. Or the heart chakra is symbolized by a pink lotus flower. So similarly, all these planets have an energy field around, okay, and they have an etheric body, and therefore they are like chakras for the whole solar system. So the energy planets are celestial whirling energy centers. And later we will discuss about all these planets and all about the signs and constellations, and about the quality of each. Like each planet has a certain quality, has a certain ray, has a certain element, and therefore create a certain effect on the planet and on the person being born in a certain time, um, specific certain time. Same with all the constellations. So we will discuss about all of this as part of the book. So just as the forces of the planet and of the inner spiritual man pour through the etheric body of the individual man upon the physical plane and condition his outer expression, activities, and qualities, so do the varying forces of the universe pour through every part of the etheric body of that entity we call space and condition and determine the outer expression, the activities and qualities of every form found within the cosmic periphery. So that was point one, that all these planets that we see have an etheric body and they are energy centers basically. The second point I would make is that within the human etheric body, there are to be found 7 major force centers. Now here it says 7, but learning through pranic healing, we know that there are more, which are in the nature of distributing agencies and celestial batteries, providing dynamic force and qualitative energy to the man. They produce definite effects upon his outer physical manifestation. Through their constant activity, his quality appears, his ray tendencies begin to emerge, and his point in evolution is clearly indicated. This control of form through a septenet means 7 part or sevenfold of energies is an unalterable rule in the inner government of our universe and of our particular solar system, as well as in the case of individual man. There are, for instance, in our solar system, 7 sacred planets, which correspond to the 7 individual force centers in man, the 7 solar systems of which our solar system is one. So you see number 7 is quite significant here, But we will discuss about all those 7 planets, sacred planets. We also have non-sacred planets. We will talk about all of them. There is one aspect of energy for which the modern astrologer makes very little allowance, and yet it is of paramount importance. This is the energy which emanates from or radiates from the earth itself. Okay, so this is usually not taken into consideration. We only study the energies and radiations and vibrations coming to earth, affecting us. But what about the energy which emanates from the earth itself? That also affects all of us because we are living on earth. We are already in the energy field of earth. So the earth's energy field also affects all of us, which is usually not taken into consideration by astrologers. So living as all human beings do upon the surface of the earth and being therefore projected into the etheric body of the planet, man's body is at all times bathed in the emanations and the radiations of our earth and in the integral quality of our planetary logos as he sends forth and transmits energy within his planetary environment. So that also needs to be taken into account. Astrologers have always emphasized the incoming influences and energies as they beat upon and play through our little planet. But they have omitted to take into adequate consideration the emanating qualities and forces which are the contribution of our Earth's etheric body to the larger whole. This we will consider later. Okay, so means, as we just discussed, usually in astrology only the influences coming to the Earth will be discussed by other planets and constellations, but the energies emanated from the Earth are not usually considered, which will be discussed in this book. Another point which should here be noted is that the influence of the moon is purely symbolic in nature and in effect, and is simply the result of ancient thought and teaching, descended to us from Lemurian times, and is not based upon any true radiation or influence. So if you look at the astrology charts, we are going to look shortly, we will see that moon is also of quite importance, and moon has an energy and therefore creates a certain effect. However, if you have studied the book Solar System, there it was explained that moon is already a dead planet. Okay, so basically moon doesn't have any radiation or true influence, but we still consider it when we are dealing with the chart because the effect of moon is now through an ancient thought form. So means the moon as a planet doesn't have any influence or radiation, true influence or radiation on Earth as other planets because it's a dead planet and after some time it's going to disappear. But because there is a very ancient, huge thought form connected with this moon, therefore there is an influence which needs to be studied. Okay, so in those far off times, antedating even Lemuria and constituting in Lemurian days simply an ancient tradition, the moon appeared to be a living vital entity. But I would have you bear definitely in mind that today the moon is nothing more than a dead form. It has no emanation and no radiation of any kind, and therefore has no effect of any kind. Quite interesting, no? Because of that huge thought form, ancient thought form, there is still influence of the moon, although the moon itself is a dead planet. So the moon, from the angle of the esoteric knower, is simply an obstruction in space, an undesirable form which must someday disappear. In esoteric astrology, the effect of the moon is noted as a thought effect, and as the result of a powerful and most ancient thought form. Students would also do well to remember that the 12 constellations which constitute our particular zodiac are themselves the recipients of many streams of energy coming to them from many sources. These blend and fuse with the energy of any particular constellation and transmuted and occultly refined eventually find their way into our solar system. Now we will discuss about what are the sources of these energies. Okay, now later also in the astrological chart, we will discuss that the sun and the moon usually veil a planet. So I will not explain more, but later, I think maybe from the next session when we go deeper into the charts, we will discuss about that. So the following is a list, incomplete but adequate for our purposes, of the major influences which find their way from far distant sources into our planetary life and produce definite effects upon individual man and humanity as a whole. We thus have a ninefold energy impact. This is a major chart, but it should be remembered that there are other impacts of relative insignificance. So number one, the first group, the constellation of the Great Bear, the seven sisters of the Pleiades, Sirius, the dog star. Okay, we will discuss about this shortly. Each of these has a certain quality and connected with a certain ray. Okay. For example, the constellation of the Great Bear is ray 1. So second group, the seven solar systems of which ours is one, the seven sacred planets of which ours is not one, the five non-sacred planets or hidden planets. So altogether, 12. We will discuss about that. Number 3, the seven planetary centers, the seven centers of force in the human etheric body. And last one, the 12 zodiacal constellations. So all of these basically affect, these are the sources of energy and effect. So we will discuss about all of this one by one. Besides this, it should be remembered that technically we should also add the radiatory influence which comes direct to us from the planet, the Earth, upon which we live, which we just discussed. Because usually astrology doesn't count this in, but besides all this which we just discussed, we also need to include the energy of the Earth. Then and only then can you have a fairly complete analysis and picture of the energies to which the etheric body of man must and does ever respond. An understanding of that response and the conscious, intelligent control of individual reactions are supremely necessary to man, but only become possible at a fairly advanced stage of development and as he nears the path. We will also discuss about the chart of a person who is in the probationary path, a chart of a person who is a disciple, and a chart of a person who is a master, because there are some things which become important. Now, all of this we will discuss later from next session as we go deeper into each of the signs. But for now, just for your understanding, let's have a look. So these are the first three that we discussed here, the constellation of the Great Bear and all. The three main constellations. Great Bear is ray 1, first ray. Sirius, ray 2, and the Pleiades, ray 3. So we have this energy coming down to the Earth. We have the constellations, and then we have the planets. 7 sacred planets and 5 non-sacred planets, and the rays. Now these rays we will discuss also in variations, because there is the exoteric way of looking at it and the esoteric way of looking at it. So Vulcan is ray 1, Jupiter ray 2, Saturn ray 3, Mercury ray 4, Venus ray 5, Neptune ray 6, Uranus ray 7. Sacred ones, non-sacred ones, Pluto also ray 1, Sun ray 2, Earth ray 3, Moon ray 4, and Mars ray 6. The moon and sun usually veil a planet. So when they appear in the chart, we need to know which planet they are veiling. We will talk about that later. Okay, and this is the chart. So when you are looking at your this is basically the flat chart. Flat chart starts with Aries in the first, so here. But when you put your date and time of birth, you may notice that this is not like this anymore. It's different. Okay, now we will talk about this later as we are discussing about the chart. So here we have the ascendant, descendant, and the colors you see here are connected with the what you call the elements of each of these. For example, Aries is fire element, Scorpio is water element. We are going to talk about all of this in detail. So this is just for your knowledge at this point. Okay, now this is also we are going to discuss further, but again, for some idea, so it's not just text, some some pictures and some explanation. So the sacred planets, these are the sacred planets, and you see each of these are the signs in the chart, okay, and these are the ruling planet. We will discuss about exoteric and esoteric later. So just have a look first. We will discuss later. This shows the connections of the planets and the signs and the rays. Okay, for example, Pluto is ray 1, see here. Okay, now in the chart, when you look, you will see symbols. Okay, usually the names of these are not written. So that's why I kept this for you to have a look and to have some understanding. For example, later we are going to look and find our sun because this is one of the important ones, and earth. So earth sometimes is shown like this or like this. Okay, but there is a cross. You see the cross. From the cross, you can know which one, sorry, not the earth, the moon, I mean. The sun and the moon. These we are going to find later in our chart because these become important. So this is again for your knowledge to know how they are presented and how are these signs presented in the chart. For example, Aquarius. We are going to talk about all of this anyway. For now, it's just an intro and understanding how they look. And the 7 rays, we will talk about this also in detail later because each of these signs are connected with different rays. For example, Aries has ray 1 and ray 7. So this shows briefly and a summary what are the rays connected with these. Anyway, we will discuss about that in detail. So man learns first of all to control his reactions to the planets as they rule and direct his personality affairs from their different stations in the 12 houses of his horoscope. There are 2 ways in which this is done. First, by having the horoscope duly cast and then taking steps to determine what should be done to negate the planetary influences where it is deemed desirable to control and personality reaction. This has to be done by the applied power of thought. This necessitates complete confidence in the understanding and interpretation of the astrologer and the recognition of the exact moment of birth. We are going to discuss about this. So to know how your chart looks like or to cast your chart, first of all, we need to know the exact moment of birth. One wonders if these conditions of the exact moment and the completely wise astrologer are ever to be found as yet. Okay, second, by consciously assuming the position of the spiritual observer and by cultivating the power to respond to the soul. Then, from the angle of that soul, the man must learn to control circumstances and the attendant reactions of the personality. Okay, so number one, that the planetary influences indicate the trend of the outer life circumstances. Now we are discussing what is important in the chart. So the planetary influences indicate the trend of the outer life circumstances. When correctly interpreted for the average man and for the unevolved man, by man we mean man, male and female, yeah? So they can and do indicate the personality, destiny, and fate. They do condition and completely control the man who has no conscious soul experience. Okay, so you see, the way these planetary influences affect us depends also if the person for whom we are looking at the chart is a person who is not in the spiritual path. Based on the book is called average man or unevolved man, or if the person is already in the spiritual path. The moment that a man becomes aware of his own soul and is endeavoring to control his own path in life, the influence of the planets per se definitely weakens and steadily becomes less and less. His personality chart appears inconclusive and often most inaccurate. It is the force flowing through the planets and not the force of the planets themselves which then governs and controls. Okay, so means if you are looking at a chart of a person who is not yet in the spiritual path, who is, let's say, average man, the energy of the planets affect the person to a great degree. But once the person is in the spiritual path, the effect, the influence of the planets per se weakens and the energy moving through the planets will increase. Now later when we are discussing deeper into the chart itself, we will see that each of these signs has an exoteric planet and an esoteric planet which is ruling them. So the exoteric planet can be taken more for studying the average man, and the esoteric planets can be taken for understanding the nature or the destiny or whatever is happening to a person who is in the spiritual path. So the man then becomes respective to the subtler and higher energies of the solar system and of the 12 governing constellations. Okay, now so later when we look at the chart, the position of each of these planets are important. Okay, so we said we have 7 sacred and 5 non-sacred planets. Later when you cast your chart, you will see that these planets are located in different houses in the chart. Okay, now we will talk about the houses shortly. So those are important because from that we will know which planet is affecting which area of life. Okay, and again, as we discussed here, the effect of the planets are more for an average man, and after that, the effect weakens and the energy flowing through the planet becomes more important. Second important thing when we look at the chart is the sun sign. Okay, we will read through all these important things and then we will look at the chart. So sun sign, as it is called, indicates the nature of the man, physical, mental, and spiritual. Okay, so sun sign refers to the present moment, refers to what the person is. Okay, now we will talk about it shortly. It holds the secret of the personality ray and of the man's responsiveness or lack of responsiveness to the soul, the real man. So here in the book, when it says personality, it means the incarnated soul. When it says soul, it means the higher soul. It indicates also the integration already achieved and the present point of unfoldment of the soul qualities, of the present available equipment of the present life, quality, and of the immediately possible group relations. It indicates from the angle of the ageless wisdom, nothing more. This is a reversal of the usual astrological position. The reason that I propose this is that humanity is enough evolved so that the astrology of the soul will become possible before long. It constitutes, from many points of view, a reversal of normal procedure. This is both wise and necessary and also inevitable. Astrologers will eventually be divided into two classes: the exoteric astrologers, who will be occupied with the horoscope of the personality, and the esoteric astrologers, who will be occupied with the purposes of the soul. Okay, so the sun basically deals with personality, deals with the incarnated soul, deals with the present, and sometimes is called the problem in our life. We will summarize all of this later and talk about it. So the third important thing in the chart is the rising sun. Now I will explain shortly what is the rising sun. That the rising sun indicates the remoter possibilities and the spiritual goal and purpose of the immediate incarnation and of the immediate succeeding incarnations. This sign concerns itself with the struggle of the spiritual man to carry on from the point achieved, so that when the life energy is temporarily exhausted and the death of the personality takes place, the man finds himself nearer the center of his life, closer to the center of his group, and approaching the center of divine life, as the ageless wisdom expresses it. This particular phrase, death of personality, has two definite connotations. Death of personality, one means death of the physical body, another one means death of the incarnated soul and the rise of the higher soul. Means we perform as a higher soul, not as the personality anymore. So let's just read. Number one, it may mean the death of the physical body, which is inevitably followed by the two stages of death of the emotional vehicle and the subsequent dissipation of the temporary and ever-changing form which the quota of mental energy has assumed during incarnation. And number two, the subjective and mystical death of the personality. This is a phrase indicating the transfer of the focus for the distribution of energy from the personality to the soul. So, the sun, as we discussed, is connected with the personality, the present life, the incarnated soul. The rising sign is connected with the purpose of the soul, the future, the goal of this life, the goal of the higher soul. In connection with the sun sign, the rising sign, and the effect of the thought form relating to the moon, the position of esoteric astrology is as follows. The sun sign indicates the present problem of the man. It sets the pace or the established tempo of his personality life. It is related to quality, temperament, and the life tendencies which are seeking expression during this particular incarnation. And it is suggestive of the rajasic or the activity aspect of the innate man. Fundamentally, the forces here found are indicative of the line of least resistance. Why do you think the sun sign? Okay, let's ask this question later when I'm summarizing these three. Number two, the ascendant or rising sign indicates the intended life or immediate soul purpose for this incarnation. It holds the secret of the future and presents the force which, rightly used, will lead the man to success. It represents the sattvic or harmony aspect of life and can produce right relationship between soul and personality in any one incarnation. It thus points the way to the recognition of the force of the soul. And last one, the moon. This type of force indicates that which is past. It therefore summarizes limitation and the present handicaps. It governs the physical body and shows where the prison of the soul is to be found. Okay, so the moon is the limitations we have. It's connected with the past, with the physical body. So the sun is incarnated soul, connected with the incarnated soul. The rising sign or the ascendant is connected with the higher soul. The moon is connected with the physical body. The past, it summarizes the limitations and is called the prison of the soul. The next statement which I would like to make and which grows normally out of the above is that the zodiacal, the systemic, and the planetary energies act either as hindering or as stimulating forces, according to the type of vehicle or body upon which they play. The nature of these vehicles and their capacity to attract, to respond, to reject, to absorb, and to transmute is entirely dependent upon the point in evolution attained and also upon the general planetary condition and psychology to be found in the human family at any given time. As instance of the latter can be seen today in the world where the forces beating in an almost violent and somewhat new measure and tempo upon our planetary life are evoking a greatly intensified response from the world thinkers, thus stimulating them to earnest effort along ideological lines, and at the same time are drawing forth from the masses and the little evolved people nothing but terror, a miserable fatalism, widespread physical depletion, and many other undesirable reactions from the form nature. Okay, so we discussed about these three. These three are important, and then where the planets are located, the energy of the whole Earth, and all of these either hinder or stimulate the forces that we have in our chart. Okay, now let's summarize. These three are sometimes in this esoteric astrology called the luminaries. I mean the sun, the ascendant sign, or the rising sign, or and the moon. So the sun, to summarize, is connected with the personality or the incarnated soul. It presents the problem in life and also represents the present life. Now, the ascendant or the rising sun is the purpose of the soul. It presents future. Our destiny lies on understanding the rising sign and the esoteric ruling planets. Now, we will talk about these esoteric ruling planets later. And lastly, the moon presents the limitations, the prison of the soul through habits and unconscious tendencies. It's connected with the past. Okay, children often live in their moon. Okay, now let's discuss about this a little bit before we continue. Why do you think the sun is called the problem in life? You may write what you think on the chat. Why is it called the problem in life? The sun sign. Later we will look where is the sun located in our chart, and it will be in a certain house, in a certain sign, and it is connected with our present life, our personality, and the problem is called the problem in life. Okay, that's what we need to overcome. Okay, very good. Yeah, the ego mind in a physical body rules, which is detached from the soul. Okay, yes. Basically, this is something that we need to overcome and detach. So we need to learn how to work with our personality and then how to connect or detach from this personality or incarnated soul and follow the higher soul or the purpose of the soul. So that's why sometimes it's called the problems in life, because we need to learn how to work with it. We need to learn how to overcome it, how to go beyond it, and then how to follow the purpose of the soul, which is the ascendant. This is the future. Okay, the moon. Now, why the moon is called the prison of the soul? We have the problem in life, and then we have prison of the soul. Physical body imprisons the soul. Yeah, that is one way of looking at it, which is true. But the moon is also connected with the past patterns, exactly, habits, unconscious tendencies. So sometimes when we act without thinking and subconsciously, and we follow certain habits and difficult to come out of those habits, all of these are connected with the moon. Okay, in the chat has written, not allowing overcoming past problems and seeds. Yes, some of the past patterns, programs, all of this is connected with the moon. Now, when you look at the chart of a person, if this person is a child, you may notice that initially, when this person is still a child, they may behave more as their moon, where the moon is located in their chart, in which house, in which sign the moon is located. And as the person is growing, become an adult, then gradually show the tendencies of the sun, which is the personality, the current, the present. Okay, and eventually we need to try to follow the purpose of the soul and develop what is connected with the qualities of the ascendant or rising sign. Now later, we will see that each of these signs have a certain keynote. Meditating on the keynote can help us to realize the purpose of our soul in this incarnation based on the chart. Okay, now how do we know what is our sun sign, what is this rising sign or the ascendant, and what is the moon sign? Okay, now let's study a little bit the chart. We need the date and time of birth. Now this is a flat chart. These lines are called cusp. This one is ascendant. This one is descendant. We are dealing more with the ascendant now, and each of these is called house. Okay. Now here you see Aries, Taurus, Gemini, like that continues. But when you look at your own chart based on your date of birth, you will not see it like this. But whatever you see, whatever appears here will be your rising sign or your ascendant. Okay, and then later we will see where the sun is located, where the moon is located, that will be our sign for the sun and for the moon. Okay, now another thing I want to quickly explain before we continue, but we will deal with this more later on. The nature of these houses is connected with the flat chart. So means if you look at the flat chart, each of these houses is now ruled by a certain sign. For example, house 1 is connected with Aries, house 2, Taurus, like that. So based on the quality of these signs, the houses will be connected with that area in our life. The lower ones is mostly connected with our personal life, more connected with individual life, and the upper ones are more connected with our relation to others, to environment, to nature, to the rest. So this is more connected with us, personal, individual. This is connected with others. So I quickly explain this, but anyway, we will come to it later. So in this way, house 1 will be connected to me, I, my identity and beginnings. Later, you will understand why I just explained briefly. House 2 will be connected to my values, my resources. House 3 with my learnings, when especially we are young, and siblings, the mind. House 4 is more connected with creating a safe environment, home, heritage, things like that. House 5, about the individual and development of self-identity. So here we start to develop individual consciousness or identity. House 6, purification, hygiene, diet, workplace, service, and all. So you see, this is more connected with individual life, personal life. And then house 7, no longer about me, becomes about relationships. House 8, connected with research, transformation, rebirth, how we handle money, heritage. House 9, goal and higher vision, higher learning, higher teaching, everything higher. And also adventures and fun and things like that. House 10, ambition, success, career, workplace. House 11, the mind, group consciousness, brotherhood, groups. And house 12, hidden, it's a hidden house. That's why you see a lock here. Institutions, retreats, healing of others, hospitals, and things like that. So later when you look at your chart, these houses, no matter which sign it's showing here, these houses are connected with these areas of life, and it's connected with the flat chart, the condition of the flat chart. So later, based on which planet is in which house, we can roughly study and understand what is affecting, what energies are affecting that aspect of our life. Okay, that is what we discussed earlier. One important aspect of the chart was the position of the planets in the chart. Okay, now this is a sample of the birth chart. You see ascendant is no more Aries here. So this is Scorpio. So if the person has a chart like this, means the rising sign will be Scorpio. Now later when we discuss about all of these signs, you can actually interpret what Scorpio means. If a person has a Scorpio as the rising sign, what does it mean? Because this represents the purpose of life, a purpose of the soul in this life. And then another important thing is, where is the sun located? Okay, so that also becomes important. This represents the present life. And so in this chart, the sun is located in Sagittarius. So then means the problem, what needs to be learned, the lesson, and the present, the personality of the person is connected with Sagittarius. And we need to also look at the moon. So all of this will help us later to study our chart. So here, for example, is Virgo. The moon is in Virgo. So means the past is connected with Virgo, the tendencies, the habits, patterns, programs connected with Virgo. Okay, so not only is important to know these, to know where are all these planets located in which house and what they represent and what area of life they affect. We also need to know the ascendant, the rising sign, the sun sign, and the moon sign. We also need to know the opposite. Okay, for example, the sun shows what we are dealing with right now, and then the opposite become also important. We will discuss about all of this. Okay, now for maybe next week, because we are going to go into studying these signs one by one, it would be good if you already know your chart. Okay, so there are certain apps that you may use. Based on my experience, some of these apps are not really accurate. So maybe you can try downloading a few and then give your exact time of birth, place of birth to the apps and see which ones present similar because based on I was trying to find an app and then introduce to you. Maybe you can try the one that I'm writing in the chat. Based on my experience, I tried a few and then some of them were similar and I think quite accurate because it's quite similar to my personality and what I need to learn. So maybe you can try, but again, if you know a better one, maybe you can introduce to the group. These two apps I tried, which I think they were quite accurate and they are free. Okay, look at your birth chart because they also show the chart of the current time and everything. But for now, we are going to deal with the birth chart to understand about the rising sign, the sun, and the moon, so that we know the personality, the past, and the purpose. Okay, shall we continue? So there is another revolutionary idea which the esoteric science of astrology brings to its modern and exoteric aspect. In the greater circle of man's many incarnations, he, as is well recognized, passes through the zodiacal circle from Pisces to Aries, thus retrograding through the signs as he follows the sweep or path of the sun's retrogression. This phrase has always disturbed me, but the apparent retrogression based upon the precession of the equinoxes is all an integral part of the great illusion. The moment a man begins to emerge out of that illusion and is no longer subject to the glamour and to the effect of the world Maya, that moment the motion of the great wheel of life is reversed, and he then begins slowly to work in the opposite direction. We will discuss about this in the next session. We are going to discuss about the three crosses: the mutable, the fixed, and the cardinal cross, and also about the rotation movement. Okay, now, sorry for the quality of these two images, but this is the natural way. So when a person is still in the probationary path, based on my understanding and based on my studies up to initiation 3, the direction of movement is this direction, is clockwise, from Aries to Pisces and back to Aries from Taurus, like this direction. Once the person passes initiation 3 and becomes a disciple, moves from mutable cross, which we will discuss in the next session, to fixed cross, and then the direction of movement becomes anti-clockwise. Now again, based on my understanding and reading, we pass through the signs one by one, and where we leave, we continue from that, and we will pass through all this. So once the direction becomes anti-clockwise, then when the person becomes a disciple, when already past initiation 3, this becomes anti-clockwise. And there is a very interesting what you call truth about the fixed cross, which is connected with the Sphinx. Sphinx discussed in Spiritual Business Management by Grandmaster Choa. When we reach to it, we will discuss. Okay, so let's continue that. He then passes through the signs from Aries to Pisces. He begins patiently and consciously to function as a soul, struggling towards the light until finally he emerges at the end of the path in Pisces as a world victor and a world savior. He then knows the significance of the triumph over death because he has overcome desire. This reversal of the way a man travels through the signs of the zodiac will necessitate a readjustment of the method employed by astrologers when they are casting a horoscope of senior aspirants, of disciples, and of initiates. According, therefore, to an individual's point of evolution upon the path, the individual's place upon the wheel of life, the practicing astrologer will arrange the interpretation of the horoscope. So the way the astrologer is interpreting the horoscope depends where the person is on the path. Is the person in the mutable cross, or sometimes called the common cross, or is the person is a disciple and is in the fixed cross, or the person is in the cardinal cross, is an initiate. It will require the work and the thought of the intuitive astrologer, dependent upon soul contact and much meditation, to determine the process of astrological interpretations for those who are active and living souls at some one or other of the final stages upon the path. That's why in the beginning, the book said we require intuitive astrology, because first we need to know where is the place of the person in this spiritual path. Is the person a young soul? Is the person an old soul? Is the person a disciple or in the probationary path? And then intuitively analyze. The casting of the horoscope of the average man or the undeveloped man presents no such difficulties, because as you get, you can interpret. That is easy. But when it comes to a disciple or a highly evolved master, then it becomes difficult. It might be added in addition that the signs of the zodiac are concerned primarily with the life expression of the heavenly man, and therefore with the destiny and life of the planetary logos. They are also concerned with the great man of the heavens, the solar logos. I refer in this last instance to their effect as it makes itself felt in the solar system as a whole. The primary effect that they have is upon our planetary logos, and this effect reaches us through him, pouring through the great planetary center, to which we have given the name of Shambhala. It is therefore capable of evoking the major response from the monads, and these monads express themselves through the kingdom of souls and through the human kingdom. It consequently expresses itself through the hierarchy and through humanity as a whole. Okay, so all these influences of the constellations and the planets and everything also affect the solar logos, also affect the planetary logos, and the influence on the planetary logos through him reaches us, reaches through the great planetary center, to which we have given the name Shambhala, and like that it will transfer to the humanity and then to us. It is the work of the zodiacal influences to evoke the emergence of the will aspect of the heavenly man and of all monads, souls, and personalities who constitute the planetary body of expression. This statement means but little to you today, but it will mean much to those students who in a few decades will study what I am here saying. Properly understood, it accounts for much that is happening in the world at this time. As these influences pour through our planet and thence to the centers of force upon the planet, they produce a dual effect. One, they produce an effect upon advanced man, galvanizing the centers above the diaphragm into activity and enabling him to respond to the radiation and the activity of the hierarchy. Two, they produce an effect upon undeveloped man, enabling him to function as an ordinary, unenlightened human being. So the centers above the diaphragm means the centers above the solar plexus chakra. So the book says later on, I think, that the advanced man works through the upper chakras, above the solar plexus, and an undeveloped man functions from the lower chakra, solar plexus and below. So it should be noted here, however, that all the energies, zodiacal, systemic, and planetary, have a definite effect upon all the lives in all forms, in all kingdoms of nature. So energy zodiacal means from the whole zodiac, from the whole what you call from the whole cosmic energies, from the cosmic logos, systemic from the solar logos, planetary from the planetary logos. Nothing can escape these radiatory and magnetic influences. The goal of the evolution for humanity is to become consciously and livingly aware of the nature of these energies and begin to know them and to use them. This is the field of occultism, and as the hierarchy has always told men, it might be stated that the disciple has to become consciously aware of the planetary influences and begin to use them for the carrying out of soul purpose. The initiate has to be aware of the zodiacal influences which emanate from outside of the solar system altogether. Now, these can be recognized as a vibration registered in one or other of the seven centers, a revelation of a particular type of light conveying a specific color to the initiate, a peculiar note, a directional sound. The whole story of the zodiac can be picturesquely yet accurately summed up in the following statement. There are three books which the three types of human beings study and from which they learn. Number one, the book of life initiates the 12 constellations. Number two, the book of wisdom disciples the 12 planets. And number three, the book of form or of manifestation humanity, the 12 creative hierarchies. We are going to discuss about this and the crosses which is connected with each of these in the next session, I think. Okay, so in summation, it might be said that the zodiacal signs affect primarily the man who lives below the diaphragm. This is the ordinary average man. These signs thus condition four of the centers: the base of the spine, the sacral center, the solar plexus, the spleen. The inner group of solar systems working in conjunction with the zodiacal signs affect primarily those who live above the diaphragm. They therefore condition the heart center, the throat center, the ajna center, and the head center. The head center is the crown center. Okay, you see what is affecting who and which area in body or in our aura, the chakras they are affecting is also different based on where we are in the spiritual path. Number three, there are one or two other points which might be noted here also. I note them for your enlightenment. Out of all the many energies which impinge upon, pass through, and produce effects upon our planet, esoteric astrology emphasizes the following four types of force because they affect what might be called the personality of our Earth. Number one, the quality of our solar system. God is a consuming fire, but God is also love. This is the teaching of both esoteric and exoteric truth. Number two, the quality of the logos of our planet as it pours through the chains, the rounds, the races, and the kingdoms of nature. Number three, the quality of the Earth complementary planet, which is the Earth polar opposite. Esoterically considered, the planet is Venus. As we said, always opposites are also important. And four, the quality of the attraction of the three planets which produce an esoteric triangle of force. We are going to talk about triangles towards the end of this book. Okay, so the four centers above the diaphragm, the heart, throat, ajna, and head centers are basically and primarily receiving centers. The centers below the diaphragm, the base of the spine, the sacral, solar plexus, and spleen centers are galvanized into activity by the four higher receiving centers. So the four higher receive and then galvanize or influence the four lower. This, when accomplished, demonstrates as personality and physical magnetism and influence until the time comes when there is a reversal in the way of passing as a soul around the zodiac. This is symbolized as the revolution of the sun around the zodiac from Aries to Pisces, instead of the reverse movement from Aries to Taurus. This is repeated in the human frame, and the four lower centers eventually return that which has come to them. Okay, so you see, the proper energy movement is the four upper centers receive the divine energy passed through the lower centers. Once the man reaches to a certain degree of evolution and advancement, the way we move around the zodiac reverse becomes anti-clockwise, and then this direction of energy movement also reverse. Four lower centers eventually return that which has come to them. They thus reverse the process normally followed, and the centers above the diaphragm become radioactive, dynamic, and magnetic. This is an intricate occult study and is concerned with the response of the etheric body to the incoming energies. It relates, finally, the lowest center at the base of the spine to the highest center, the head center. This is a correspondence to the relation of the earth to the sun. This may refer to the activation of the Kundalini energy, now from the base of the spine going up to the crown, and then finally connects or relates the base of the spine to the crown and corresponds to the relation of the earth to the sun. As we work and study over these matters, let us bear in mind always the fact that we are considering the seven rays and their interrelation in the cosmic process. We are concerned esoterically with number 1, the 7 rays and the 12 signs of the zodiac. Number 2, the 7 rays and the 12 creative hierarchies. Number 3, the 7 rays and the planets as they govern the 12 houses of expression. So as we go through the signs and the planets, we will discuss about the 7 rays connected with them. So we will understand which ray is connected with which zodiacal sign, with which planet, and even which element, and then we can understand deeper. As we ponder and think, and as we correlate the various aspects of the teaching, we shall find 3 propositions emerging which govern the inflow of life out to the planet and to the individual man. Proposition 1, every ray life is an expression of a solar life, and every planet is therefore linked with every other planetary life, animated by energy pouring into it from the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And 3, actuated by 3 streams of force. 1, coming from solar systems other than our own. 2, our own solar system. And 3, our own planetary life. Proposition 2, each one of the ray lives is the recipient and the custodian of energies coming from the 7 solar systems and the 12 constellations. We are going to talk about the rays later. Proposition 3, it is the quality of a ray life manifesting in time and space, which determines the phenomenal appearance. Okay, all these discussions about the rays will come later. So I think we're almost done. Let's just finish a few more pages. So these are all introductions that we need to know before we study the zodiacal signs and the planets and the triangles. So before we penetrate further into the consideration of our theme, I would like to emphasize 2 points. First of all, that we are considering esoteric influences and not astrology per se. Our subject is the 7 rays and their relationship to the zodiacal constellations, or in other words, the interaction of the 7 great lives which inform our solar system with the 12 constellations which compose our zodiac. Secondly, that we have necessarily to study these energies and their interplay from the angle of their effect upon the planets, and incidentally their effect upon the forms in the various kingdoms of nature, and particularly in connection with the fourth kingdom, the human, and with individual man, average man, the disciple, and the initiate. So as we are going to study this, first thing we need to know that we are going to study the esoteric aspect or the esoteric influences of the sign and the planets. And we are going to study this affecting the whole kingdoms, all the kingdoms, including the fourth kingdom, which is human, and the individual man. We are going to study from three different perspectives: perspective of the average man, the disciple, and the initiate. So before we penetrate further into the consideration of our theme, I would like to emphasize 2 points. I have pointed out these energies fall into 3 groups. 1, those coming from certain great constellations which are to be found active in relation to our solar system and which from the most ancient days have always been related in myth and legend to our system. To those constellations, ours is related in a peculiar way. 2, those coming from the 12 zodiacal constellations, these are recognized as having a definite effect upon our system and our planetary life. 3, coming from the planets found within the periphery of the sun's spheres of influence. So this we discussed earlier. I showed you an image. Maybe we can go back and have a look again. We have 3 great constellations and then the 12 zodiacal constellations, and then the planets. Okay, I just go back to the image just to review one more time. Here, the 3 main constellations, the 12 zodiacal constellations, and the 12 planets. 7 sacred, 5 non-sacred. So these 3 are influencing. Okay, going back to where we were. Okay. Now, from a certain point of view, one can generalize largely and say that these are the correspondences in the solar system to the 3 great centers of force, which produce and control manifestation and evolutionary progress in the human being. Number 1, the great exterior yet controlling constellations are analogous to that center of force, which we call the monad, and to its universal will to power, which is distinctive of the first divine aspect. First, the power. 2, the 12 constellations might be regarded as embodying the soul aspect, and for the present, their effect upon the individual must be regarded and should be studied in terms of consciousness and of the development of the life of the soul. This is in essence the will to love. This is the power aspect, the love aspect, and the planets, 12 in number, 7 sacred planets and 5 non-sacred, are effective in relation to the external life, environment, and circumstances of the individual. Their force contacts should be interpreted largely in terms of the human personality, the third divine aspect. They thus exemplify the will to know. So these 3 that we just discussed here, these 3 energies, number 1, which was the 3 great constellations, are connected with will or the power aspect, the 12 zodiacal constellation connected with love aspect, and the planets connected with intelligent aspect. Will to power, will to love, will to know. Okay, we shall confine ourselves to the vast field of energies which I have outlined for your consideration and shall consider only the major forces which are in circulation. This will suffice for our day and generation. We are concerned with energies which can and do evoke response and of which man can be aware and in many cases is today aware. It might be useful here to comment in a wide and general way and with many necessary reservations upon the broad sweep of some of these responses. Number one, undeveloped humanity is primarily conditioned in its life and circumstances by the influence of the lesser zodiac and thus by the position of the planets in the 12 houses. Two, average intelligent humanity and those nearing the path of discipleship and upon the probationary path respond consciously to the planets affecting their personalities, the sun sign as indicating life trends which are already established and which constitute the line of least resistance, and the rising sign in a small measure. This indicates the life goal for the particular life cycle or else over a period of 7 lives. The last two constitute the greater zodiac. Okay, so that is going to affect how we are dealing with the chart. If you are looking at an undeveloped humanity as per the book says, they are conditioned and affected by the influence of the lesser zodiac, means the position of planets in the 12 houses. The average intelligent humanity for them, as we discussed previously, who are nearing the path of discipleship, the influence of planets in the 12 houses will start to have less or weaker effect. And the effect of the planets affecting their personalities, the sun sign and the rising sign will be more dominant. And three are the disciples and initiates. The disciples and initiates can begin consciously to respond to all the above influences, handling them constructively, plus those potent yet infinitely subtle forces which pour into our solar system from the three major constellations. In the early stages, the response is in a subtler bodies and the brain fails to register them, but after their initiation, there is a recognition of them upon the physical plane, bringing the theme back to the subject of this treatise, which is that of the 7 rays. I would point out that these rays have a close connection with the 7 stars of the Great Bear and to the 7 sisters of Pleiades. Okay, so in our study, we will mainly focus on this number 2. But here it explains what in the chart affects who or which type of person. A person who is not yet in the spiritual path, a person who is in the probationary path and nearing the path of discipleship, and the disciples and initiates. Okay, and this is the last slide for today, just a summary. So the Great Bear is connected with ray 1, Shambhala is connected with ray 1, and the whole 3 great constellation as a whole is also connected with ray 1 as we discussed earlier, which I haven't included here. Ray 2, Sirius, hierarchy, and the 12 zodiacal constellations. Ray 3, Pleiades, humanity, and the 12 planets. So this is just a summary. Hope you enjoyed the session for today. This was like an introduction to what we are going to study and to some concepts and principles about esoteric astrology. So in the next session, we are going to still talk about 12 hierarchies and the whole wheel of life very briefly. And then we already start to study the zodiacal constellations in deeper, and also about their elements, their rays, their ruling planets exoterically and esoterically. So I suggest for the next session, if you already find your chart, birth chart, horoscope, maybe it will help as we go through each of these zodiacal signs. Maybe you can try to understand what is the effect in your life, what is your rising sign, what is your sun sign, and what is your moon sign. So we can try to analyze and understand how it's affected to our life. And then, as per the book, we will also study the greater influence on the humanity. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the session. Let's finish with a short invocation. And the recording will be shared in the WhatsApp group. Please close your eyes. Inhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, and all the great, great ones, thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection. Thank you for illuminating our minds. Thank you for this opportunity to learn together. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Thank you. I also recommend everyone you can always do your own research and studies. And if you find interesting topics, please share in the group so we understand this together better. If you have questions, please ask. And we try to answer as a group, try to understand this together. And this understanding of astrology is really interesting if we go deeper for understanding of our life and also the whole divine plan. So it will be great if we help each other in understanding more. Thank you so much. See you in the next session next Saturday. Atma Namaste.